studio. We're live. Welcome back to the LEC studio. Just moments before we started, Medic looks at me, he's like, we're pretty serious, pretty formal here, and then we have a bit of fun. Anyways, week 3, it continues with Mad Lions taking on SK Gaming. Now for the German squad, the upcoming schedule is a bit of a chance for them in the race for playoffs. And the reason I say that is they've already played G2 and Rogue. They're playing Mad Lions today, and obviously coming up when you look at Excel and Vitality, and we don't really know what's going to be happening here from Fnatic. So there's a bit of a theme and a bit of a tone that I've been bringing to the show today. In that race for playoffs, every single game is very important.
I mean, we always talk about it. Every game counts. We had tons of Medic playoff checkups last year where it was like, you need to win this one game. If you win this combination of 6 games, like, just win the games at the start. Like, you've got Mad Lions, Excel, Vitality still to come. Fnatic may be a little bit trickier, but if SK can win a few of these games in the next few weeks, they can really set themselves up for success. And I think a lot of it comes off the back of their junglers as well. Like, you look at SK and you look at TynX and you think, this is a guy that can really develop into being a very strong jungler as the rest of the split goes on, as the rest of the season goes on. And if he can start to step up now, SK could be on a really good run of form.
Yeah, and I think you and I in particular are very excited about TynX coming into the LEC because of how close we've been to the EU Masters over the last couple of years. Now he's facing off against Elyoya, and this is another player that we've been discussing on the broadcast significantly, a cerebral player, a very smart player. Caedrel, talk to me about the two individual players and how they're going to clash, and also how they work with their teams.
Well, Elyoya specifically was in Euphoria. He has a lot of self-criticism towards himself. He wants to make sure he's the best version of himself so that it affects the team as much as possible. And you can see by the stats, I think Elyoya is just an early game jungler. Like, you can see it from the start to the finish of the game. He's smurfing in the early game really hard, whereas TynX is a lot more quiet in the early game. I think he likes to play more team fight-oriented champions. But I like both playstyles. They're a little bit different in ways. But both these players are so hyped up coming into LEC. Like, Elyoya was back off MRS. He was like the best jungler in the LVP. Absolutely smashing everyone, basically like a baby Razork in a way. And then you had TynX, who has just been a prodigy for like the last 2 years, finally gets his chance. And I think it's just quite a hype matchup.
Now, Caedrel, also not only in terms of differences in terms of, let's say, early game impact, late game impact, like preference on player, the champion pools and the way the teams are utilizing them also differs.
Yeah, I think that both of them have different champion pools. We're going to look at TynX's first. And I think the thing I want to highlight here is he's mostly playing towards AD junglers. Yes, he played Taliyah, yes, he played Munda, but he's been playing mostly Graves and Hecarim, and he's pairing that with AP top laners, Volibear and Gragas, both quite hybrid. I'd say Volibear is more hybrid than Gragas, but AP-style top laners. And now, if you play an AD jungle and an AP top, this is more for scaling, I think. We saw it last game with Kryze and Dan. They went for the Olaf Cho'Gath. This is more of a scaling-orientated way to play the game. I think having the same AD-AD is not very good, AB-AP is not very good. So having mix is very good between your top jungle, but this is more of a scaling version. That's why SK's early games aren't as strong.
On the other side, when we look at Elyoya and Armut, it's the inverse, right?
It's the inverse.
AD-AP.
Yeah, AD-AP. So AD-AP is a lot more, it's a lot different. Even though champions are different, it's more about the playstyle as well. So if you look at things like Aatrox Renekton with like a Nidalee, Lilia, Taliyah, this has got so much more setup to play topside. You know, Renekton's done into a one-shot, spear, anything like this. So this is more early game orientated, and you can see it in the stats that we saw before. Elyoya is smurfing the early game. Mad Lions is one of the best early game teams we've got, I think. And that basically comes down to champion pools. You know, if you draft an AP jungler and an AD top, you're really looking at the early game. Taliyah's super strong in the early game. Nidalee, Lilia, these champs power farm so quick, and they're so strong after their first base. Yes, Ivern's a small exception. It's more towards team fights, but it's kind of still there, right? The concept's there.
Medic, how good is Mad Lions early game?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was about to say. Like, Mad Lions, their development of this top jungle early game style into how powerful they are in the early game is actually just really strong. They actually sit at the top at 10 minutes in gold difference, in first bloods, in first towers. Their tower differential at 18. They're basically not losing any towers early on. And we saw it last week against Fnatic. Like, that was a very bloody affair, but Mad Lions were able to take that game by the scruff of the neck early on because of how well they synergize in these early game skirmishes.
And I think that when it comes down to, like I said, the AD-AP mix, you also have the AD mids. And you saw Humanoid playing things like the Tristana. So if you play AD-AP, it's quite complicated, but double AD solo laners with an AP jungle, this is very, very early game domination. You know, AD solo laners really dominate the early lane phases, and then an AP jungle scales really well into the early game, into the mid-late game. And you can see it here on the stats, right? We already talked about it. Elyoya is the big driving factor behind this early game. I think Mad Lions, the only mistakes they're making is individual mistakes towards the mid to late game, getting caught before dragons, getting caught going overextending, things like this.
Well, for everybody watching at home, we will have a post-game for this match, and we'll get to test some of our theories, see whether or not Mad Lions early game will overcome SK. And we've got our eyes set on some of those key champions for draft. So let's see what happens.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. It's not as hard as Caedrel makes it sound like. They're just one letter separate, so it's very hard to say and very hard to explain. I guess it is really
Listen,
hard to
if you
explain.
break it down to magic and swords, it's much easier to think about. Do you have magic in the top lane, or do you have magic in the jungle? Do you have swords in the top lane, or do you have swords in the jungle? When you think about it like that, it's pretty cut and dry.
Cloaks help you with the magic, armor helps you with the swords.
It's
Keep
true.
it simple, people.
Keep it
it
simple.
simple. SK versus Mad Lions, you heard a lot from the desk. I think there's actually a lot of different avenues you can focus on this one. Top side and bot side are the two that we're primarily going to be looking at today. Two incredible supports on the Rift, and top lane, the focus often for both of these teams.
We're going to be talking about a lot, but before we get to any of that, we have to get to dramatic music.
What did you reach for? Oh, never mind. Oh, and folks, as surely as Vedius has floppy emo hair and as this music is surprisingly sensual, I can tell you this game, it's gonna be a banger. 2 AD carries already taken off the board, and that means there's pick of the litter for available junglers, which means we could see an all-out brawl between Elyoya and TynX. And Los Mad Lions want to start taking the Pantheons and the Olafs off the board, but Twisted Fate is also up and available. Folks, this is gonna be a wild pick ban.
Wow, you're really amped after 3 bans.
I also drank an entire Red Bull. Unrelated. Wings, baby, with 3 eyes.
Alright, well, Renekton's going to be taken off the board, so a little bit less aggression in the top side, Olaf as well. The question is, will the Pantheon or the Twisted Fate be removed? Because one of them is going to be picked up. The question is, which one? Let's see. Or will Mad Lions leave both open? Get wild.
That's a little too wild, if I'm completely honest.
Wait, I just noticed that drawing in the background of SK. That was cool. I like that.
Sunwong, is that how you pronounce it? Excellent artist on Twitter.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it TF? Or is it? Okay, it's going to be the Twisted Fate. You know, I actually think Mad Lions could do a Kali here. Maybe. I know that the only reason why I say that is because, oh, wait, with the Akali...
Wrong way. Wait,
no. I know.
The Akali energy nerfs are on this patch.
Okay, yeah, they are on
She
this
is
patch.
borderline, according to many pros I've spoken to,
okay.
unplayable.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say I wasn't sure if we were on that patch yet, but it's Humanoid. It's one of his best champions, and I know some people don't like it into the Twisted Fate, but I thought that maybe he would be someone that would be happy to play that. In any case, it will be Azir, so we don't have to worry about that. I imagine that the Wait, Azir Pantheon? No, actually, I really don't like that at all. But then you're just
What?
I mean, okay,
No.
so like...
No, I'm sorry, hold on. This is not allowed. If there is one thing that we learned in week 1 of the LEC, it's first, if you can clump up and group to win, it's usually right. Second is, even more important than first, if you can get more globals than the enemy team and still have a comp that can group up and fight, you have most certainly absolutely won the game. So if this right here is a Pantheon, I am scared for Mad Lions, Vedius.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's not going to be, though.
What?
Okay, so we've got magic in the jungle for SK, and we've got swords in the jungle for Mad Lions.
Well,
And according to Caedrel's trend, normally the opposite is true.
yeah.
Which means that, remember, that for SK, they don't have the Renekton to choose from, which is the very common combo that you see in Nidalee Renekton. But they could go Camille. I don't like it, but... Oh, Pantheon top? Pantheon top. Ooh.
I love it.
Ooh, I mean, it's super aggressive. It's double global. We saw Bwipo bring it out to pretty great effect, I feel like. Your ability to impact the map is so potent. But Mad Lions weathered that storm when they played.
Exactly, with the Wukong. So if Mad Lions want to go for something right here, they could. Instead, they're going to go for the Rell. Now, I like this because the 2 great Rell games that we have seen so far this split have been from Treatz and Kaiser, respectively. So can understand why that's high priority. But that said, maybe the Wukong just gets banned away here. Already see the Vayne taken off the board, and this could be a very difficult lane matchup for Armut.
Whew. Well, remember that he was solo killed by Bwipo's Pantheon as the Wukong, so maybe he's not as confident in the matchup. We'll have to wait and see. SK could also choose to ban it off. Yeah, Aatrox was like more of what I was thinking, especially if Mad Lions were thinking more of the scaling. You're kind of like running out of top laners now, though. Camille is the only other one that we commonly see, but then you're like really digging into the champion pool. I'm looking like, so the most next pick after Camille is Ornn and Volibear. Which, you know...
Which is almost entirely Jenax.
Yeah.
The Volibear stat. Which is crazy, because Jenax also in this matchup is going to be an interesting guy to track, not just because we heard about top lane focus from the side of Mad Lions as the Thresh is banned away, but also because Jenax played the same matchup twice last week, Volibear into Camille, with wildly different results. He got absolutely trashed by Broken Blade, and he absolutely destroyed here in the mid game. So
well, the difference was the support that he had. In one game, he was left alone, and then in the other game, he had his mid and jungle camping him. So I think that's why top lane can be so volatile and so influential. Samira going to be banned away. Okay, wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. But I guess they're not too afraid of Camille. I could easily see why Pantheon into Camille early would be very good, and I don't think Camille's that hard to dive with a Pantheon. So yeah, I understand why they wouldn't want to ban it away. Now though, Mad Lions, they need to... I think Xayah is just really good here. Oh, they are going to go for the Ornn. Okay, so they're actually just going for full Weather the Storm, scale for late game. Yeah, they're going full team fight. I mean, I respect it.
And this is a game where Udyr is, if he gets ahead, going to have a relatively good time, because keep in mind that while he may not be able to 1v1 the Nidalee, he can certainly find those stuns on these more vulnerable targets and set up for whatever AD carry or, you know, Azir damage is going to come through from the side. But wow, what?
That's...
Wow.
Wait, that has to be Jarvan support, right? We saw it over in the other...
Or it's Pantheon support again, which seems totally improbable because that champion's bases were nerfed beyond reason. Folks, we got a wild one. I said at the start of Picks and Bans, I told you, just like Vedius' floppy hair, that this was going to be crazy. And I feel like these teams have delivered. I can't say I've had anything to do with it, but that's Tristana coming through. We got a Tristana, Rell, bottom lane. Ornn in the top lane, boring. Who cares? But he's fighting Pantheon. That's exciting. And that's a Kalista, Jarvan, bottom lane. Jarvan goes in, Kalista pulls him out, Jarvan goes in again, and then Jarvan ults and goes in for a third time. Wow, that's a hat trick of engage.
I love your enthusiasm, Drakos. Okay, well, there's going to be a lot for us to talk about when we get into the game, but looking at the surface level, it's very similar to last game. SK, they want to be very proactive in the early game. They want to use their globals in the mid game. They want to get leads, and they want to snowball those leads. Mad Lions, it's all about weathering that pressure. They want to hold the line. They are going to be waiting, and then when it gets to later on, that is when they want to sell. Question is, will they be able to pull it off? SK versus Mad Lions. It's going to be a bloodbath, and you guys are going to enjoy it. So, without further ado, let's do the thing.
Down. And down. All right, deep breath as we enter the game. There's a lot to talk about in this game, and it's certainly expecting an explosive early game from the side of SK. But for now, no level ones, so we'll take this as a brief respite, as a brief chance to maybe cover some bigger picture things before the bloodbath begins.
Okay, I thought you just wanted to talk about Jarvan support, honestly. That's
I really don't want to talk about Spellthief's Jarvan support.
Don't?
I mean,
I think it's great. So the cool thing about Jarvan support is his E applies airy. Like, it's such a cool interaction. It's also great poke in lane. It has a really strong level 2 spike. I don't know if it's the strongest versus Tristana Rell. Honestly, this bot lane matchup, I am very unfamiliar with. Kalista, Jarvan versus Tristana Rell is definitely a pretty unique one. But for those avid LCK followers, you are familiar with Life over on Jarvan support. Big advocate of the fan.
Yep.
Big advocate of the fan, big advocate of the pick, playing a lot recently as well. And yeah, I think that it acts as a great frontline. It offers a decent amount of utility. It can act to face check later on into the game, and I think that it offers a lot of lane presence. And I think that when you pair it up with a Kalista, the expectation is that you not only do you have great gank setup, but you also just have a strong 2 versus 2 lane. Level 1, I don't imagine that it is the strongest, because Jarvan doesn't really get his utility until he hits level 2, so there's going to be a big battle for that push.
But similar to the way the old Olaf matchup was used to work, you can also trap the Udyr in, which is always something that's nice to have. As we'll just kind of look across the lanes right now. For now, relatively calm early game. Humanoid with a bit of mid lane pressure, sort of as expected. TF going to need a few levels before those wild cards can really clear out the waves. But Blue definitely getting bullied a lot here, partially just due to the level 2 advantage that Humanoid has.
It blows my mind that regardless of the year, the meta, and the matchups, Azir always finds a way into the meta. Kaiser level 2.
It's like Kaiser finds a way to engage as Jezu's now going to be in trouble, but the exhaust is there, and they're now trying to turn him around. Carzzy's exhaust is now falling away, and he's going to be in trouble. Treatz walking forward. The auto. One more. Where's the cadence at? Oh, the thumbs up, but is it enough? Yes, it is. And now Kaiser has to run out to safety, but that's a second flag and drag. Jezu also on the way in. Hail of Blades is back up and available. 1, 2, 3. He's stacking them. Kaiser's going to be in trouble. He's burning. He's running away. He's forced to dismount and just barely makes it out alive.
Wow, and that was Mad committing to the all-in when they had the level advantage, but the exhaust from Jezu came in so clutch there. Beautiful stuff. When we look back into the replay, which we're going to get straight away, look at this. So you know that Kaiser, it's so obvious. You can see that he's about to hit that level 2. Jezu respects it, but he doesn't respect the flash all-in engage. Notice how they hold the stun from Kaiser till now so that he can get the full stacks, but Carzzy, he's taking minion damage, he's getting hit by Treatz, and he's getting the stacks from the Hail of Blades plus E from the Kalista, which really is the difference maker there. Carzzy didn't actually get the max stacks off of his bomb, so he wasn't able to proc that, but huge credit. It just goes to show how powerful Kalista with the Hail of Blades can be, even only at level 1, and how much of a difference that exhaust really did make.
Keep in mind, Jarvan also has something that most people forget about because you just never lane against Jarvans anymore. His passive does current health damage. So when you kick off those fights, and it's a relatively short cooldown early on, 6 seconds, actually at all stages of the game. So Jarvan, similar to what the Rell brings to the table with those empowered autos, is going to hit pretty hard. And you also saw the Airy, as mentioned, proccing defensively there on Jezu to make sure that he could survive in that exchange. Overall, very well played by SK, and important when we see all of what's happening on the map here.
I also wanted to say that Mad's bot lane is probably the most bloody in the league. They have so many kills. They have 4 2v2 kills in the league across, well, this will be their, what, 6th game? Which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Kaiser's going to be in trouble. He's going to dismount, gets the immediate shield, but that is a ton of damage.
So much damage. SK really throwing around their level lead right now, but really good stuff. And like, it's a great opportunity for us to talk about the supports, because while there was a lot of jungle focus, like, we wanted to bring attention to both Kaiser and Treatz. We feel like Treatz, after his stint over on TSM, a lot of people had their question marks around how good of a player he was, and he has his opportunity here in Europe. And I think that he has been one of the shining lights of SK. A lot of people are obviously very excited to see TynX, but this man, especially his Thresh in the first week, was very impressive. And you can see what's crazy is you just compare the jungle participation. Like, Kaiser groups up with his jungler a lot. They roam around the map a lot. They look for plays a lot. Whereas Treatz is a lot more about his laning. He tries to protect Jezu. He's much more about finding those picks, but he's still so involved in all of the kills that SK gets. He is the facilitator. He is the playmaker for this team. So I think that his role and his responsibility is so important, and very similarly can be said for Kaiser.
And when we look at it now, with the lane advantage that SK have for themselves, even in CS overall, but of course the kill onto the J4, dominating that lane gets easier for Treatz, and leaving that lane gets so much harder for Kaiser. So if he was hoping to get any kind of map advantage out of this Rell, doesn't look like it's going to happen quite yet. That said, Armut, a good dash out to safety means he will not get caught out by the Nidalee spear there.
Yeah, now we kind of, as you rightly said, have to keep an eye on that bot lane, because obviously SK do have the advantage, but they've already been looking for roams a lot. Kaiser and Carzzy were already looking for a play in the mid lane where they couldn't really make anything happen. They're going to get this quick push into the bot lane, and they're going to move over to the Drake, secure that one. Yeah, SK for now holding in the 2 versus 2. They do have a slight CS advantage, but Twisted Fate, now level 6, has the Ignite thanks to the Unsealed Spellbook. Jenax, level 6, no teleport though. Same can be said for Armut. And I like how Humanoid is just keeping the pressure up in lane, keeping Blue underneath his tower. And Humanoid is someone I want to give some credit to, because we kind of looked into it. He's actually one of the best laners in the league. He is really dominant in how he actually plays his 1 versus 1. He often finds advantages. It's just in the mid game, he dies. You know, he's also the highest when it comes to isolated deaths. I believe he's got 6 in the league so far.
Tied with VTO.
And I think that if you, as a player, I think that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. When looking at Humanoid as a player, what I think is really fascinating, so we prepped this thing, and
it's fine.
Well,
You were talking about Humanoid?
You got it. Yeah, so Humanoid, as we were saying, look at how dominant he is here in Spring, right? He is one of the best laners that we have in our league. And it's crazy when you think about some of the huge mistakes that he's made that have cost his team the game, but I think that it's one of those consistent points that often goes unrecognized because of how influential he actually is in the early game, and he's a large contributor to some of the early game gold leads that Mad often find themselves
And this is very big in a game that you describe, Vedi, as a game where SK are going to be the ones to push the tempo, are going to be the ones that need to find these early advantages, to have someone in the mid lane like Humanoid who can be a rock, who can push advantages on this matchup. And if you see those numbers, and you saw the Fnatic game, you're going to be like, okay, but wait, how much did the Fnatic game inflate those numbers? And surprisingly, not that much. Humanoid has been very consistent, has been that massive contributor, and it's important for him to remain that in this game because bot lane is in trouble. Carzzy just getting absolutely deleted, exhaust right on time, Blue joining the party as well, and the Mad bot lane is getting dissected clean from SK.
Wow, beautifully played from SK, and what an engage from Treatz. We already highlighted him as a player earlier, but we've got to draw attention to him again. That flash EQ knockup combo was extremely well executed, and the exhaust again just mitigates any form of counterplay. So SK, the 2v2 is playing this extremely well right now, and they're the ones getting the early goal lead for SK. Blue will get his ult off. He will be a little bit behind in the 1v1, but that doesn't matter, because now SK can just invest all in the bot side of the map. They just got themselves the Rift Herald, and now they want to bring it down to the bot side, try and open up Jezu and Treatz to start moving around the map. Treatz now level 6 on this Jarvan. It's going to be very influential. So let's have a look at the combo once again. Carzzy kind of hovering around it. Here comes the engage from Treatz. Flash knockup. Beautifully done. And then the immediate follow-up from Jezu as well. Jezu tried to stack up onto a minion, kill the minion, and then throw those stacks onto Carzzy to get that one-shot. Unfortunately, didn't quite pan out. Wasn't quite the combo that he was looking for, but in any case, they still get the kills, and now they sit with a 2k gold lead against one of the best early game teams, the best early game team that we have here in Europe.
And remember, it was just last week that we were watching Carzzy and Kaiser absolutely dominate the 2v2 bottom lane up against the Excel bot lane. You know, Patrick and Torre, who generally Patrick we look at as a very solid AD carry regardless of the level that Excel is playing at. And now, it's SK turning this on its head. The Halo Blades Kalista, already insanely powerful early game. You give her an exhaust and a Jarvan support, she's looking just about unstoppable. So time to keep our eyes on Jezu and Treatz and see what they can do to keep this snowballing forward, because again, SK in the driver's seat. Yes, that is exactly what we wanted to see. 2k gold lead at 10 minutes, that is fantastic for SK. But if they take their foot off the gas, if they give Mad time to scale up, this is not an easy game to win.
I am wondering though if I prefer the Rift Herald top over bot. Because if you open up Jenax to roam, could you then not use that to just further snowball bot lane? Like, it's that debate, right? Because you could just really open up the map bot lane. You could just chuck the Herald there, get as many plates onto the Kalista as possible, really get her super far ahead of Carzzy, and then you just start bringing this Kalista around the map, and you can just do whatever you want. Or you could take down top tower. You could then leave Armut to just catch all these waves, and then Jenax could help dive with his bot lane, and then kind of influence the map that way. And the point I'm trying to get at, SK have options. They have a lot of options.
Certainly do. And Blue here just going to help out with the crab as Jenax steps forward, ready to go. But Kaiser is on the top side, so he does have to be careful. Ornn goes unstoppable, is going to dash to safety. That's the gold card, but Kaiser's in the area, so they get the TFL basically for free there. Does mean the Pantheon can set up a freeze on the wave if he wants to, but Humanoid in the meantime is taking plates. Keep in mind, if SK really want to snowball their lead, they need to get more plates. For now, it's just going to be Jezu and Treatz knocking a few down in the bottom lane.
I very much agree. We really want to see as much gold funneled into these SK players as possible, and props to Humanoid punishing every time Blue roams. The thing about Azir is he's always going to have this push in this mid lane, so every time you look to roam on the Twisted Fate, you will get punished for it. You will lose a lot more than you think, and you can already see this CS discrepancy starting to massively build up. Mad, though, have their eyes on the Drakes. We have not really talked about Elyoya at all, because he has just been farming the jungle. And while he did secure the first Drake, the question is, will they be able to secure the second? I'm very afraid of this Kalista Jarvan. They have a lot of summoners up, and I think SK would be more than happy to take that fight.
Does Carzzy know? We got 3 people in the area. They're just going to try to one-shot Carzzy before the fight even kicks off. Kalista flashing off to the side. They get the knockback, but no, she can't quite pull out the spears. The Ignite is ticking. Carzzy's still alive, and Jezu is ticking down. Jezu will live as well. Carzzy now in trouble. That's going to be the flag fadeaway coming in from Treatz. Dunking on him in style, but Kaiser and Elyoya are still healthy. Humanoid, all eyes on the Azir. The slide, the glide, maybe the ultimate coming in as well, but Treatz with a perfect stopwatch. The TP now coming into TF, matching the pressure coming in from the Azir. Gold card could come out. but now it looks like it'll just be the Herald used on the bottom side. If they want to, they can break this tower down almost instantly, but Kaiser and Elyoya sticking in the area, confident in their 2v2, and are not going to give that one up.
Wow. Treatz is playing so well. His Jarvan support is very good. And it is a pleasure to watch because the fact that he was able to get that kill, the fact that he was also able to protect his AD carry, just huge props to him and Jezu for how they are playing this 2 versus 2. Carzzy and Kaiser are a hyper-aggressive bot lane. We've already talked about this at the beginning. Okay, that's not optimal use of the Herald. I'll get to that in a second. But Carzzy and Kaiser are hyper-aggressive. They love going for 2v2 kills. They love fighting you. And they love opening that bot lane up for then Carzzy to like play in the 1v2 and then Kaiser goes and roams. And SK, they recognize this and they punish it. They just match them in the 2v2 and they beat them at their own game. And they just deserve so much credit for that because they're doing a great job.
And it looks like they are going to be able to escort this Herald in. A little bit of time till the plates fall away, but Carzzy really cannot approach the wave with 2 members there, let alone 3 as the Nidalee was revealed. But can buy a bit of time as the wave. Can't get behind it to hit the eye, though.
The TP as well. They really don't want this to... Wow. That's a lot invested from Armut. His top wave is not in a great spot either. I actually think that's slow pushing towards the Pantheon. The question is, where is the Panth? Yeah, I want him to head straight back to top and catch that wave. Let's have a look-see. Oh, thank you, observers.
Okay.
Oh, I actually think he's fine. That's actually pushing towards Armut, so it's not as bad as I thought it was. Thank you very much for highlighting that, observers. So he can actually just... oh, he's going to walk up to top. Yeah.
You're waiting for the ult. You were wanting some fast-paced math action.
But it's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Armut's actually not going to lose so much. So I like the TP a lot more. Of course, Jenax doesn't have a TP, and it will mitigate that Herald going into that tower, which means that with the plates dropping soon, that's going to be a little bit less gold for Jezu, which is definitely in Mad's favor. But the damage has already been done. Jezu, of course, already in a very comfortable position. And if we could have a quick look at the gold, we can see where some of that big discrepancy does exist. You can already see it in the bot lane. You can see it a little bit in the jungle, a little bit in the top lane. Most of it on the support.
Which, when you look at Jarvan's items, might seem a little bit threatening, but he's rushing a Zanya's. So it's not, it is a big deal, but it's not the biggest deal. And I think what is important here is that while more often than not, we're like, okay, you didn't get a couple plates, it's okay. SK were all about just getting as many plates as possible in the early game. And for Mad Lions, anything they can do to slow SK down without giving much up in return, that's positive for the team overall.
I will say that from Mad's perspective, I'd say that they feel a little more comfortable than what we saw XL in their position in the last game. You know, like when Misfits had a very similar comp, they were just ganking non-stop, pick after pick after pick. Whereas SK, they found a lot of advantages in bot lane, but that deficit in the top, that's absolutely fine from the perspective of an Ornn. Like, they're probably going to have to give up the Rift Herald, but they have control over the Drakes for the time being. So even though SK have had a good early game, that bot lane is very strong, Mads just want to avoid forcing any over-eager fights. They want to just try and get whatever objectives they can by making cross-map plays. They want to just pick up farm, and they know that Azir is slowly ramping up. They know that Udyr is sitting in his jungle, continuing to farm. He's just going to be that face-checking, tanking, obnoxious stun bot later on into the game. That's going to make Kalista's life hard. You know, she's trying to cut you back, and then Udyr's like, slap, slap, slap.
Yeah, point and click's certainly the bane of Kalista's existence. You can dance around any skill shot in the game, but if you can point and click her down, as is the case with the run and stun, especially when you have the chem tank as well coming in now for Elyoya. But that said, relatively quiet game, I would say, from both junglers. Although Carzzy might be hoping to keep it quiet here on the bottom lane and will manage to make it out before Treatz can confirm there on the EQ combo.
There's that Aerie proc as well. Man, I think a support Jarvan is so cool. I think it's been a little underutilized. I understand why other supports are considered stronger, but when we think about like what the bot lane pool was, it makes so much sense when you pair it up with a Kalista. It gives you so much 2 versus 2 power, and we can really see it come to fruition.
Well, and if we think about the champions that can interrupt him, there's like the Thresh, there's the Alistair, but certainly Rell isn't one of them. So he gets free license to flag and drag whenever he wants, outside of when Tristana has ultimate available.
That's a really good point, Drakos. You know, when you think about some of the big current meta supports, like Leona could probably be really obnoxious because when the Jarvan goes in, like ults could interrupt it, you know.
That's hard to out-damage the Leona in that all-in when her passive is proccing repeatedly.
And then Alistair as well, like I think he's, the moment you try to go in, Alistair's like, no, back out you go. And Thresh is another one. So yeah, the fact that maybe they played on the fact that Mad have such a high priority on this Rell and they were able to punish it. So again, just huge credit to SK. I think that their drafting is something that I've been Like, it's been very up and down throughout the splits, you know, like there was the question marks around the Mundo last week about like, okay, does it really make sense when going up against, honestly, a comp where it doesn't do a lot of magic damage, but I don't think they come up with some creative ones. This is another engage.
Humanoid going to leap out to safety. Jezu with the pull back, going to throw Jarvan right back into the mix. A lot of ultimates burned down there, but Elyoya going to flash out. They've used the exhaust as well. Blue now stepping forward. That's a gold card. Kaiser most certainly going to get taken down, but here comes the Ornhorn. Maybe the turn. Is Armut coming in? Elyoya running forward. Run. Trying to make his way out of the fight. Oh, Armut gets taken down, though. SK are just too strong in these early skirmishes.
And they just execute with perfection. They just kind of stayed at arm's length of Mad the entire time. That engage underneath the tower was really good timing. They forced multiple summoner spells out from Humanoid, Elyoya, and Kaiser. And then when Mad kind of tried to keep their men alive, the re-engage from SK was just extremely well done. So props to SK, 5-0, 4K gold lead. They're going to get their first strike of the game. I'm impressed, Drakos.
And I think when we look at both of these teams, it's important to remember what their expectations were coming into the split. Mad, on paper, were looking to purely upgrade from what was a top 3 performance domestically. SK, yes, they made playoffs, but they rebuilt almost their entire roster. And for many people who were fans of the roster, very surprised to see a player like Crownshot leave. But now here in week 3 of spring, they are contesting that same Mad, who on paper improved their roster with an almost completely new lineup.
Now, of course, there is some context there. Of course, Mad have chosen to go for a slightly more scaling comp, but they were the ones that also tried to force that all-in engage in the bot lane as well. And I think the fact that SK, they still got a lot to do. They still got to close out this game. You know, they found that huge lead against Schalke, that Mundo Quadra kill. It was there, and then they couldn't close things out. So we're still trying to figure out where SK place in the league, what their identity will become here in the LEC for spring 2021, whereas Mad, they're only trying to prove that they can be good. And I think that with this comp, a similar comp, they ran it against Fnatic, they weathered the aggression, and they were able to come out ahead in the team fights later. And that's where you really get to see some of the power of players like Humanoid, like Armut, who are really big carry playmaking players that can really turn the tables in a team fight. And right now, they're doing very well. Armut, of course, just dying, but he's going to be that big frontline engage. Humanoid continuing to stack up XP items and is going to be very close to his second core item as well. So Mad definitely not out of this game yet, even though the gold lead does not look very favorable right now.
No, 5K at 20 minutes, definitely not. But until a Baron or an inhibitor falls, or a Dragon Soul, doesn't really feel like the game is over. Blue now completing the Lich Bane, though, will be good news for the team. As Treatz is going to be forced to make it out to safety. Flag, drag, a little bit extra on the shield there just to slow on the retreat. But SK holding on for now. A little bit of lane priority for a brief moment here from Mad Lions means they can invade the bottom side and lay down a bit of vision. We'll see how SK responds.
Of course, next game we have G2 versus Vitality. Vitality, another team, a lot of question marks surrounding. Sitting at the bottom of the leaderboard for the time being. But kind of in a neutral map state right now. No real objective to play for. The Baron's just about to spawn. And everyone just kind of catching farm. Looking to gain a little bit of vision control here and there. You can see that SK kindly have strong side on the top side of the map. But Kaiser coming to help out Humanoid, offer a little bit of assistance. Look at that poke coming out from the Jarvan.
Yeah, and also the damage coming out from the Azir, only 1.5 items, but shredding through TynX's health bar there, so you do have to be careful. Fighting that Azir always feels like a death sentence, but SK really have no reason to come into Mad's territory until they have the optimal setup. TP on the Pantheon available, as well as the semi-global ultimate, semi-global for TF2, so all things working out pretty good for SK right now.
Now, I will say I am a little concerned for SK that they haven't really used this Pantheon at all. Obviously, a very powerful top laner that they didn't really invest much gank time into. We saw 1, maybe 2 ganks headed up towards the top side of the map, but it didn't really result in anything. And while the Pantheon is farming quite well, it's usually at this point in the game where you want to be like ulting, attacking sides, trying to force some of the spells. Humanoid has no flash right now. You know, you want to try and be as proactive as you can on the map, and while SK are taking objectives, Mad are successfully trading objectives elsewhere on the map. They were able to get the bot tier 1, they were able to get the mid tier 1, and for now, SK only have a 1 tower advantage, and I feel like a lot of the globals, they haven't really been able to take advantage of as much as they would have liked.
And we talked about this game as an excellent opportunity for SK to show us more, to prove that they can go toe-to-toe with the top.
Here we go, this is it, this is it.
Humanoid dash to safety, gold card gonna go in. Humanoid in trouble, but an instant cleanse. The exhaust coming in as well. The flash coming in to extend the range of the EQ, and Humanoid will go down. But now the TP coming in as well. Armut can recommit to the fight if he wants to. Treatz backing off. looks like just the single pick for SK.
This is exactly what I wanted to see from SK. Abuse the fact that Humanoid doesn't have his flash up. Yes, you get his cleanse, but there's so many point-and-click CC, speaking of.
Here we go. Udyr time, baby. Run, stun, job, done. Jenax trying to make it out of safety. Aegis Assault and pulling back to his team. It's clean movement for now, but Carzzy going to close that one out. Treatz goes gold. His Armut butts his head into the wall. He's unstoppable now, but now Kaiser in the midst of the entire team. Carzzy leaping face first into danger, though, as Jezu's just going to finish the job. Carzzy, that is not the fight that you wanted. That is one strong Kalista, and SK shred through the Mad lineup.
While the engage from Kaiser looked very good, it was a little too good in that it kind of baited Carzzy in to allow Jezu to get the cleanup.
Don't put this on Kaiser. Carzzy.
No, but I mean, like, it was just like, it looked perfect, you know what I mean? It's that thing where you're like, oh wow, yes, I see the apple in front of me, and then you reach for it and there's a cliff right underneath as you reach for it, and that cliff is exactly what Carzzy jumped right into, where Jezu and TynX were waiting for. Again, that fight looked quite promising initially, but when you don't have Humanoid, he's a large bulk of your damage, and again, I really like this play from SK. It's exactly what I wanted to see from them. Utilize their ultimates to try and force these picks. And Humanoid, he drops the cleanse, the exhaust comes through, the knock-up commitment from Treatz. And while he comes to disengage, you can also see Jenax on the flank there, ready to help support his team. Now, at this point, SK can look to threaten a Baron. But they get baited into another fight because Mad is like, hey, Jenax is out of position, let's commit to this. And then we can see a little bit of trading back and forth. Good kill onto Jenax, gets Carzzy a little bit of gold back. And then you see in this choke point, this is where the engage comes through from Kaiser. It looks so beautiful, but there's no stun available, and then the moment Carzzy jumps in, he realizes that, no, this is not the fight for me. He kind of wanted to keep his distance at that point, use his range to his advantage, but he went for the wombo combo, and it didn't quite pay off.
And obviously, SK versus Mad, exciting game to watch, but Carzzy versus Exhaust, a nice secondary subplot here. I'm a really big fan of this one. I don't think there's a single time where he has leaped in that he has not immediately gotten exhausted by Jezu. That is so infuriating.
Oh, and look at this Kalista now. 3-0-4. The Rune's Hurricane also completed. 2 fully completed items. That is one very scary Kalista.
And on top of that, now we got the rapid fire cannon for blue too, so setting up these picks is even easier. But as much as we talk about this game, Vedius, as an opportunity for SK to prove themselves, to prove this new lineup, for Mad, even with their solid early games, even being 3-2, which puts them a little bit ahead of the pack, we've talked a lot about how their mid games have been a little sloppy. And with Humanoid getting caught out again, it's a little bit worrying that this game may continue in the same fashion.
I mean, the biggest difference is that while we often talk about Mad having strange mid games, it often comes off the back of having a big lead in the early game, which they did not get this time round. But now their hand is being forced. SK is putting the pressure on Mad. They want to try and use their gold lead to put Mad into a difficult situation, and Armut has no TP, so they should be able to burst this one down.
Stoning, Kaiser going into the middle of the entire lineup, 2K getting lower, eyes on the Baron, dropping slowly, the fight continuing to go through, but no, TynX is going to grab it in the end, Carzzy leaping into the backside, but he immediately gets one shot. There is no room for this Tristana in this game. Humanoid in the back of the pit is going to leap over, the knockback is there, and SK just descending upon the Mad Lions. It is Predator versus Prey. Armut, just another name on a list for this team as Jezu gets the triple and Elyoya runs for the hills.
Wow, I thought that Elyoya was going to get that steal, but SK were able to lock that one in. The ultimate going to come through from TynX. He's thirsty for another kill. Elyoya is going to get away to safety. Another well-executed prey from SK. Really liked the commitment to the Baron, forcing Mad in, and they knew that Armut didn't have TP. They took advantage of that fact that he wouldn't be able to rotate in time, and again, they know that with a Kalista, they're going to be able to burst this one down. And with the smite and the damage from their composition, look at how quickly they take it down. They try to keep Elyoya out of the pit for as long as possible. They wait for TynX to come out of the Zhonya's before they pop the damage, and the smite then comes through. And then the commitment from Carzzy here. I'm not entirely sure what his plan was, but I can tell you that that wasn't it. And it did not come to fruition. They tried to then lock down the Kalista, but she just does too much damage and is able to turn this one very cleanly in the favor of SK. Very impressive performance from this SK lineup coming into week 3. They are clearly looking to show that they can battle with some of the best. And the fact, again, that they were able to get such a huge gold lead against this bot lane that is known here in Europe for being hyper-aggressive, huge props to them.
And obviously, Carzzy, difficult performance last week, even though they did win the game against Fnatic. He didn't really get a chance to shine. And sadly for him, it's a similar story in this game where Jezu and Treatz are absolutely popping off 6-0-5. So Relda's Grudge now finished, meaning that all those abilities are going to slow. There is zero way anyone ever gets away from this Kalista. And also, you've got a Moonstone Renewer coming in on this J4. He is so incredibly fed. This is a duo you do not want to mess with.
Yeah. Very, very true. SK with the Baron now looking to break into the base. They have the globals as well, so if you're out of position, Mad can very quickly collapse on you. And like, we haven't talked much about TynX rather. He's kind of been silently farming in the jungle, but I will say this is one of the better Nidalee performances that we've seen. Nidalee, I think, a very difficult champion to make work, but SK have done a great job. And just, again, this is a very difficult to execute comp. For those that, like, it looks easy because they've just been kind of getting kills all across the board, but this comp, if you make a mistake and you fall behind early, then Mad get to dictate the pace of the game. And like we saw it in the last game, Misfits versus XL, the scaling comp is just easier. It's straightforward. You just have to fight at the right time. And the fact that SK were able to get this lead and snowball with it, very impressive stuff.
And earlier we talked about how a 5K gold lead wasn't an insurmountable task for a composition like Mad's. But 10K, 9K, with a Pantheon man dropping in your face, you got to be careful, because I think it's one more mistake, maybe two more mistakes before we see this one just fall apart.
That's all the globals used, though. Blue has ulted along with Jenax. Mad not yet engaged on. You can see the team has now grouped up. This could be the best possible position for Mad to be in. Is this the 5v5 that cost them the game? I like that SK is focusing on the mid lane prio for now.
They don't have mid prio, they don't have bot prio from the side of Mad, so if they want to force a fight here, it's a very big gamble. The initiation, though, Elyoya just trapped in the pit with the entire team. Keep your eyes on the Ornhorn going in, though. There's already one member down. Carzzy going to get deleted right off the bat one more time. Kaiser trying to buy as much space as he possibly can, but Humanoid already going to go down, too. They don't even need the Spear to connect. Double kill coming through. Yes, Mad can team fight, but not in the face of a 10K gold lead.
Once again, a beautiful fight from SK. They knew what they had to do, and they just focused one target at a time. Mad were uncoordinated, and SK were able to punish a sub 30-minute win coming out from SK. They're looking to come into week 3 strong.
A stunning performance from the SK lineup, and most certainly the SK bottom lane. Fantastic across the board, and good to see a young lineup like this coming together in the matchups that matter most. Mad Lions left reeling in what was an incredibly dominant victory for SK Gaming. 3-3 tied up with the Mad Lions.
And that's all I can say. I am impressed with what SK were able to do. I feel like the SK have been struggling to really showcase a clear style for what we've seen within the first 2 weeks. I still feel like that they were figuring stuff out. They've also made some big mistakes, like they've been getting leads and they haven't been able to close things out. And I was a little worried, but they've clearly come into this game and showcased what they're capable of. They prepped well for Mad. They executed well against Mads. And I think they had a great game.
And what's crazy is when we looked at this draft, I was worried about the Twisted Fate Pantheon.
Yeah.
But the Twisted Fate was under his tower for most of the game. The Pantheon was chilling in top lane. It was the bot lane duo, that Kalista Jarvan combo, that blew this game wide open. Kia, player of the game, at LEC on Twitter, Blue, Jezu, Treatz. Blue, I'm sorry, bro, but it's the bottom lane. You guys can take your pick, but it is Jezu or Treatz for me.
And huge props to Treatz. You know, he came into the LEC, like, a lot of question marks. I don't think anyone was skeptical, but people weren't exactly excited to see him. Yeah. But I think that he really has been making a name for himself here in the first 2 weeks of the LEC. Hopefully, he can keep that going up again tomorrow.
Yeah, big challenge. Of course, we're going to take a closer look at SK's bot lane in a few minutes as they shut down Mad Lions with a dominant performance.
I don't really consider it gear. It's an extension of who I am. It blurs the line between fantasy and reality. Sometimes, I can't tell myself from my machine. I think that's by design.
put to sea, and the name of that ship was the Billy T. The winds blew harder, bowed it down, blow me bully boys blow. She had not been 2 weeks from shore, but down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. We'll take our leave and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore, but down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Before the boat had hit the water, the whale's tail came up and caught her. Hands to the side, harpooned and fought her, and she dived down below. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come. One day when the tonguing is done. Soon may the wellerman come. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of that ship was the Billy T. The winds blew harder, bowed it down, blow me bully boys blow. She had not been 2 weeks from shore, but down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the LEC Mad Lions, looking more like cute kittens today as SK take them down. And Treatz, first question here for you. I absolutely adored the bot lane you played, and I want to know how much of an inspiration did you take from the LCK with this one?
Yeah, obviously it was first played in the LCK, so it was the first time we saw it, and we thought it would be really good this game. We haven't had like insane amount of practice on it, but yeah, we just thought it would look good, and we were confident, and I think it showed.
Okay, so tell me more about it, because you granted the first defeat to Rell in the LEC. So I want to know more about the matchup Jarvan versus Rell, and why did you think it was a good combination here?
I think in general, Rell is pretty good against Jarvan, but with Kalista, the Rell doesn't really have a lot of engage options. I can kind of choose which engages I want, and the Rell can't really counter that. So as you can see in some fights, she tries to counter engage on me, but I just get Kalista ulted out, and I'm completely fine. So yeah, I think it's more about the Kalista than the actual support matchup.
Clever matchup here and choice from you guys. But I'm intrigued because seeing the Twisted Fate and Pantheon and the global ults offered by these champs, I was expecting some action popping from the solo lane, but it's the bot lane actually who did all the work. So talk me through the communication, the game plan you had, and how do you explain these results?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely wanted to make more plays with our solo laners this game. The game was a bit too slow on top side, I think. So I guess we had to compensate on bot side a bit to get some kills back. But yeah, we wanted to do more on our solo laners, but I think they played pretty well top side and played pretty defensively. And they were just trying to scale up, so I think well played to them in that sense. But we'll for sure look at it in the review.
All right, adapted and created the action yourself, which is why you get the player of the game here. Third time for you since the beginning of the LEC in 3 weeks. That's super impressive.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Anything you want to tell about this performance and maybe, yeah, the game you had with Jezu? Because yeah, I knew him from the LFL, so I hope he's treating you nicely.
Yeah, he's treating me nicely. I think we're a really good bot pair. We have a lot of fun playing together. And I mean, for this game, I think me or him could have gone the player of the game. I think he played really well as well. So yeah, I'm happy with our progress, and we will just keep looking to improve throughout the split.
All right, waiting for these improvements then. Very promising start so far. Treatz, thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And for more about this game, let's send it over to Trevor for post-game.
Thank you so much, Laure. Another fantastic interview. Congratulations to Treatz. A fantastic performance on the Jarvan. Managed to win another player of the game. For the 3 wins SK have picked up, Treatz has been PogChamp for all of them. And we are joined by Weird Champ, Ender, for
Nailed it.
Post-game. Not a bad transition.
The boomer knows his Twitch.
That's good. That's
I'm
good.
learning. I've been trying to get down with the kids. Look, it was a great performance. I was actually speaking to Ender just before we went on air, and I was asking about the draft, and I was asking about what you thought, how the composition came together. So let's take a look at the two sets of picks and tell me what you think.
Yeah, well, I mean, right off the bat, obviously looking at what SK have put together, their top side of the map is very nimble. Like, they have a lot of globals around it, so they have ability to attack side lane. Good setup for the Nidalee as well. But I think everyone's eye was going to be caught by the bot lane, the 2v2 with the Karthus. Jarvan, that's one, good lord. And of course, and he's going to be the huge facilitator of all the engages, right? So the mid game can be carried by getting a numbers advantage and finding fights on side lanes with a Pantheon and a Twisted Fate. And then when it comes to the team fights, it's all going to be up to Treatz. And I thought so many of his EQ flashes set up the team greatly.
Yeah, I think if you're playing Tristana into Kalista, that is like one of the most volatile bot matchups you can get in the game, especially with melee supports. I think that Mad Lions were the ones who initiated these fights a lot, but I think that SK kind of adapted pretty well. And I think that even though they've drafted double global in mid-top, people think globals are proactive, that you need to do things on these globals to snowball the game. But if your bot lane's winning, you can also use it as a defensive tool, right? So if Mad Lions send 4 people bot to try and shut down the bot lane of SK, SK can just use the ults to kind of match it just to defend the play rather than make the play happen. So I think that with having a winning bot, SK just use their tools to play defensively on their solo lanes and use their global ultimates to cover their bot lane as much.
Yeah, and it was interesting because that sort of developed over the course of the game, because even hearing Treatz in the interview there, he said they were looking to play more a little bit around their solo lanes in the early game, and I think that makes sense. Like, Twisted Fate and Pantheon have a lot of good support for Nidalee to roll into lane, but an Ornn's maybe a little bit more difficult to gank. Maybe in the mid lane, a Cleanse Azir also going to be challenging, and with the early scrap from level 2 in the bot lane going the way it did, it obviously was going to bring more focus.
And I think that's the key point, right? Both solo lanes are getting pushed in, but they both have a global. So it doesn't really matter if you play around top side. Jungle can just free farm. If they make a 4-man play bot, just match it with globals, and SK should have the upper hand.
Now, talk to me a little bit about some of these early picks, because coming into the game, I was anticipating the, the AD conversation we're having, and maybe looking a little bit more towards scaling on the SK side, but they got a lot of early kills punishing Mad's engagement.
Yeah, I like the top side draft from SK. The Nidalee Pantheon is super well synergized, like Ender said, with the TF, but it all comes down to Mad Lions' bot lane playing super aggressive. Now, it makes sense, right? They got the level 2 first, they went for the all-in, Tristana, Rell, jump in, get the stun, but they never really executed Jezu to the point where he died. Jezu pops the exhaust onto Carzzy. Carzzy doesn't manage to take down the kill. The mechanics from Treatz were so good this game. The EQ flashes were clean, and as soon as one side of this matchup gets an advantage, that side just runs away with it.
Exactly, and I think the huge difference was the summoner spells, right? Like the Jarvan being able to use the flash to get that, as you mentioned, and also every single time there was a jump in from Carzzy, it was the exhaust, right? And Carzzy himself was running the heal, and I think as far as the 2v2 goes, you almost never see 2 level 2 champions lose the 2v2 to 2 level 1 champions. And I think the exhaust was a huge factor.
Yeah, and I think after level 6, so basically those 2 bot lane fights went in favor of SK, and it's so hard for Mad Lions to salvage bot lane because, like I said, the globals. Second of all, they don't have that much engage unless Ornn TP's down and pops the ult. The only real engage they have is Carzzy going forwards first, but if Kalista's ahead, they're always going to win that. So you've got this incredibly volatile bot matchup, but you just can't save it for Mad Lions. If they're losing the side of the matchup, they can't do anything to help it.
We've got less than 2 minutes to go, so Ender, let's try to rush through the rest of this, because once SK got ahead against Mad Lions, who were the best team in the league at 10 minutes, SK didn't let go of the advantage they'd accrued.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard because everything that Mad Lions are going to try to do is try to throw what they have at the AD carry here, right? At Jezu, because he has Immortal Shield Bow, and now there's like no damage. Carzzy gets no auto attacks down during this fight. Humanoid's also zoned, so this very risky Baron to go for, but they do land the smite. And once again, Carzzy jumps in and gets instantly CC'd.
That's the problem. SK's comp doesn't really have a tank. The Jarvan was more AP with a Zhonya's, and this Nash was a bit of a flip, I think. Elyoya was sitting in the pit and your heart stopped for a second there, because if Mad Lions get this Baron and they have Tristana Azir, they outscale. So there was a comeback potential there for Mad Lions. But SK secured it. The rest of the game was pretty clean. And I think that them having globals and hard engage just meant that the carries of Mad Lions could never really find the scaling. Elyoya didn't do much this game. He couldn't really find opportunities. The lanes were too volatile and the solo lanes were playing too defensive. So when it came to that Baron, I think it was a bit risky, but you can't really talk against SK for that Baron. You know, they have to snowball the game fast because they're playing an early game comp.
Yeah, that's just how it played out. I just remembered that the AD carry champion is Kalista, so it only took me 5 minutes, but we got there. Thanks.
Exceptional performance from SK. It is not what I was expecting, and not in the manner that it was. We are going to take a break after suffering the first loss last week. G2 Esports are going up against Vitality with something to prove.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
You told me Jarvan?
Jarvan? I didn't know what he was.